Welcome back to iUniverse Radio with host Steve Jorgensen.
Greetings for Steve Jorgensen and for iUniverse. This is J. Douglas Barker. The title of the book is Personal Finance, Simply Understood, and it also has a subtitle, Prudent Strategies for Setting and Achieving Financial Goals and the Reasons Behind Them. The book has an impressive title and an impressive cover. On the front is a big old picture of a $20 bill, at least one. And my author is Chris Simber. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
This is a complex subject. Is it a complex book to read? What motivated you to put it together?
The motivation was as my children became young adults and started to venture out into the world, and I wanted to impart to them much more than just general observations like you gotta save and put some money away for a rainy day, and really explain things to them now that they're getting a bit older. And a conversation just wouldn't cut it. One-on-one for 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on how much information I wanted to cover, I knew it wasn't going to do it. So I started to write a letter, actually, and of course, the letter grew very quickly, and I realized certain terms and ideas and concepts that I wanted to put into the letter required some background information. So the letter quickly grew to be very large, and it wasn't too long before I realized it was going to be a book in order to really cover all the information, provide the background that was needed to understand the concepts and the principles, and to show some of the pitfalls and some of the areas and trends where we've fallen down in the past economically as a culture and society, and what to look for in the future going forward. So it grew very rapidly.
You're not just an author. This is your first publication. Tell the listeners a little of your background, why you qualify to write a book on this topic.
Well, as part of my graduate studies about 12 years ago, I took a finance course, and that really launched me into a study of finances, although I had been interested for most of my life in how economics work and economic principles, both in our national economy but also in the local economy, and from a personal standpoint as well. And I was actually on a travel-type work arrangement where I had every evening during the week idle to do what I wanted, and I started reading extensively about finance, economics, and personal finance, and just never stopped. I finished the graduate work in finance and then continued my study and my research, reading just about everything that I could find, those things that were prudent, those things that were ideas and concepts that were somewhat far-fetched or trend-related, in order to really glean those things that are prudent, that are tried and true, and have stood the test of time. Well, and it continues today, actually.
Yes, individuals definitely need your counsel or your wisdom. Obvious things, but things that a lot of us haven't mastered as yet. Impulse buying, don't accumulate, price and quality, some general rules for purchases. Those are great ideas. Which of those do you think is the most important?
I think the most important is to stop and to think and not to react quickly to a deal or to have a knee-jerk reaction when you see something. A lot of times we're out shopping for something and we see something else and we buy it. Or sometimes we're not out shopping at all and we see something and it's, I got to have that. And, in a lot of areas, I'll pick on car dealerships just because it's easy. They really want you to make a deposit and sign a piece of paper before you leave. And it's a refundable deposit, and they'll tell you that. But the idea is they know that if you sleep on the decision, you're really going to make more of a prudent decision after 24 or 48 hours than you would while you're in the showroom and while you're smelling that new car smell or while you're looking at that replacement vehicle. And so just taking the time and pacing ourselves with regard to purchases can a lot of times really put us on the right path.
You also touch on life insurance and other important factors of survivorship planning and other aspects of life. Is this book going to be complicated for me as a neophyte in finances to understand?
Well, I think, going back to the reason that I wrote the book, I needed to lay a foundation prior to discussing any of those types of things. And to not take the deep dive. You could write an entire book on life insurance, and there are so many flavors out there. And in the book, we don't do that. In the book, I explain, all right, here's what life insurance is, the three basic kinds, and probably what, given a certain scenario, what the best choice would be. Understanding that someone that's looking for something in particular or something that covers a broad range of needs is going to sit down with a representative. My point in that case is do that, but certainly fully understand what it is that you're purchasing, what type of agreement and contract you're entering into. So we cover enough information with regard to life insurance and enough information with regard to survivorship in the book to understand what amount do I really need? What am I looking at? What's the big picture here? And then the specific flavor or how I actually approach that step by step is kind of left to the individual. So you're provided with guidelines, I'll say, and then the understanding is that, and same case with annuities, someone who's taking a look at an annuity is definitely going to sit down and explain what an annuity is and what people use them for. But a person who's interested in actually purchasing an annuity and entering into that contract, I implore them to understand what it is that you're signing and what you're entering into.
Personal finance, simply understood, who's your target audience?
The target audience is anyone with an interest in personal finances, anyone who would like to get a better handle on and have an understanding of how they can actually manage their personal finances. Take a look at the various debt elimination plans. We lay that out in the book and understand how each of them works, what are the benefits and pitfalls to each of those to make the selection that best benefits them. Savings plans and how to develop them, what they're all about, why I recommend 3 different savings plans as opposed to just one, and understanding that we need to not only take care of what's happening today economically and with our personal finances, but manage them on a regular basis. And in that plan, we need to look at our loved ones and how they're going to be taken care of in the future. Not just our future, but, what's the future look like if, say, I'm not around next week? If something were to happen, how are they going to be cared for and taken care of from a financial standpoint? Important
topic to discuss and to understand as a family. How would you introduce this to someone, this book?
I think I would explain it, I've read so many books, and many of them take a deep dive in a very specific area, be it real estate, be it annuities, be it investing. We need to understand every piece of the puzzle. Now, how much understanding we have of each piece of the puzzle really depends on our own personal situations, or how things affect us personally and where we're headed and what we're interested in. So I would introduce the book and say, look, this gives you a full understanding of personal finance management. It lays the groundwork. It provides step-by-step guidance on how to handle each of the areas and what to look for. And then let's say you really get interested in investing, or you really get interested in survivorship or other life insurance policies and what's available out there. Then you would go from there. But we all need a launch pad. We need a starting point, and that starting point can't only focus on, say, debt elimination. We need to understand, how does savings work with debt? How does debt work with savings? How does our future and our investments and our savings plans fit into the big picture in terms of our family and in terms of our future and where we're going?
A lot of books on finance and some financial gurus in the marketplace. Why is your book different, and why should I want to read it?
Well, you can listen to all 20 or 25 that are out there today speaking, and you can read the 100 or 200, I'm really not sure of the number, of books that I have read and glean the information from them. Or you can say, hey, look, Chris Simber did this. Let me take what he's learned and take a look at that and see if it makes sense to me. See if it really is a gleaning of all the gurus and all the books that are out there now. And does this kind of put things in a funnel and funnel it down and strain out those tried and true and those prudent strategies?
Chris, you've managed to condense this to a 222-page read. That should be a very simple and straightforward task for most of us. Was there anything complicated or difficult about putting this book together?
I think the organization was the most difficult part, and that was because, as I said, each of the areas of personal finance relate to and lean on other areas. So starting a concept or an idea or a principle, and then finding, halfway through it, wow, if you knew about this other thing, I wouldn't have to explain it here. So how do I provide enough information investing in the saving portion just to get through that and have an understanding of it without having a chapter inside a chapter? So the most difficult part, I think, was providing enough information to get through each of the topics, and then when we actually reach those topics in the book, in that chapter, then there's a foundation laid and an understanding of the interaction between the.
You have a step-by-step that seems very logical: building portfolios, survivorship planning, preparing for retirement, a subject that's on a lot of people's minds today, savings, longevity, and so on, and even taxes. Personal finances simply understood. Great topic and thoughtfully written. Chris, where do we get copies of your book?
They're available at all local bookstores and, of course, online at the usual places.
And do you have a website?
And we have a website, yes, and a blog associated with that, actually, at simber.com.
And Simber is spelled?
Simber.
All right, Chris, thank you for joining me today. Again, the name of the book, or the title, is Personal Finance, Simply Understood, Prudent Strategies for Setting and Achieving Financial Goals and the Reasons Behind Them. Chris, thank you for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure, thanks.
For iUniverse, this is J. Douglas Barker.
You're listening to iUniverse Radio. We'll be back right after these messages.
Join us